Hello, and welcome back to Hill and Valley. Today we are starting something a little bit different. We have this awesome podcast studio, and we decided it was about time that we started a podcast of our own. So, on this show, we will be describing some of the ins and outs of the work we do, some of our history, keep it a little bit more casual, and get some other insights into us as people, as well as some deeper cuts of the story of Hill and Valley as it goes so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like a lot of the things we put out tend to be a little bit more produced just because we want to have a specific vision and give you guys specific information. But that definitely has prevented us from sharing more of our personal lives and just more of the inner workings of the company.
Yeah. So some of the topics that we might cover in this podcast might include anything from personal backstories as to how we got into filmmaking, what some of our inspirations are, some stories from productions we've done, our viewpoints on modern tech, modern cameras, the filmmaking and movie industry, just basically anything that we're interested or that pertains to the work that we do. So, Adam, why don't you give us a quick rundown on how Hill and Valley came to be? How did we get here?
Sure. Well, a brief overview of how we got here was I went to school for photography. Even before that, I was into video in high school, just making skate films. I'm sure you can relate. But after college, I kind of realized that I didn't really necessarily want to be working for someone else, and I had worked at a small business before. So I kind of gave me a lot of confidence to understand like how a business works, how you treat customers, and the reason why people start their own business really is I was doing a lot of freelance work, seeing how other video production companies work, and I really just thought to myself, I can definitely do that after, helping other people start their companies from the ground up, and was able to understand the complexities and then some of the things that were a little bit more hidden for most people, like things that you don't get to see on every day, just being on set. And I also realized that I began to do a lot more of the heavy lifting for the company I was freelancing for. I was pretty much like going on shoots, and I felt like at the end of the day, there wasn't too much more that I wasn't already doing that would pertain to running my own thing. So yeah, I started doing freelance work and slowly started doing it under the name of Hill and Valley. And it was at first just literally doing jobs for other people. And then I got one of my first clients when I was still in college, probably like junior year of college, that I started doing consistent drone work for. And that was pretty much it from there. I just learned how to work with that one client, talk to them, and I had like a monthly retainer. At the time, it was like $750, and I thought that was the most money I would ever make. I was like, this is crazy. I'm getting paid $750 a month consistently to go fly my drone. And began to push the boundaries of that, just like what can we offer them? What can we do differently? I found that I love the creative freedom I had. I would use film to take pictures if I wanted. There was nobody who told me what I could and couldn't do as long as I was providing the product at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I think for me, that's where a lot of it started. And I realized quickly that I wanted to work with other people because I don't like working alone. I don't like creating alone. I never have really. I'm definitely more reserved, I think, but I still like collaborating, and I don't like doing all of the jobs when it comes to running a video production company. I just like making videos, and I like making videos as best as possible. And you find out pretty quickly that you can't be a master of every aspect of production. At first I thought I loved the whole process, and I still do love a majority of the process, but after a while I realized that there are people that could do things better than me, and maybe enjoyed certain aspects of production, like post-production. I'm not a big fan of post. I like color grading and I like editing certain things, but as for being an editor, I'm certainly not a video editor.
Yeah. And I think like everyone here at the team has a variety of different skills and strengths and weaknesses within video production and like photography and everything. But because a lot of us have similar backgrounds and training, like Adam and I and Tatiana all went to the same school, basically the same program. I think especially when working with a small team like we are, just that flexibility is really helpful in productions. For example, if there's a shoot where Adam is the person who's communicated the most with the client and has the most information and maybe had the earliest or the maybe had a vision for the project first, he can kind of take over the role of directing and maybe producing the shoot. And that kind of frees up your mental capacity to just focus on that and not worry about, all right, what cameras are we going to use for this? What lenses, what modifiers for the lighting, like all the other actual hands-on production stuff. So in this example, maybe you'd bring me in to be the camera operator or dial in lighting and everything, so you can just focus on your job. And then that also goes the other way, so that like if there's a project that I'm kind of spearheading, I can bring you in to say, hey, I need help actually generating a shot list and coming up with some of the specifics. And so I definitely feel the same way, where I enjoy most aspects of video production, definitely some more than others, but I really enjoy the environment it creates when we can all kind of bounce back and forth between different roles and jobs on different shoots, so that we're not always doing the same thing every day, but at the same time, we kind of know what each person prefers and maybe is stronger with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I learned that when I was working at the camera store, like really early on. It's important that if you're going to be in any level of not just production, but like running a business, you should know how to do, or at least understand how almost every aspect works. And you don't have to love all of them, but from there, I feel like it's easier to communicate with people. And once you understand all of those different levels of production, or any, like I said, running a business, whatever the jobs are, I think if you're any level of management, you should understand it pretty much as well as the operator is. I'm not saying, again, you can't do everything, but just having a general understanding will allow you to communicate and also just be more compassionate about, the person's job and their respective work.
Yeah, and understanding each role helps you understand what a person needs or doesn't need on set. Like, for example, I think through experience, we've learned what not to say to each other during a production. Like, just for example, if I'm operating camera and like trying to do something and I'm like changing the settings, trying to get a filter on, like really focusing on making this shot work, and then you come over and say, hey Joel, like where's the extra battery for the light that we brought on set? Like, what are we doing here? Like, a lot of times if we have enough people, just understanding what everybody's focused on really helps like keep everyone focused on those things and not distract them with things that may not really fit within their role for that day.
For sure.
And that's another reason why I think just having a team on productions is really helpful, to have someone there to kind of assist with all of those other things, so that when you ask them to do something or ask them to help you, it's not detracting from their role on set.
Absolutely. I love the way we've learned to work together. It's like been a dream of mine. I think early on when it was just Rick and I, we had like, not telepathy, but like you understand that, like you said, you don't have to ask somebody the question. You kind of just know the answer. And if you know the answer from experience, you can just do it and you can be more helpful that way. Not saying that you don't have to communicate at all, but over time, I think that's what makes productions run smooth. It's having a tight-knit team where, everybody knows what's going on. And if you see something that needs to happen, you make it happen instead of just asking more questions and making things more convoluted. I think that's one of the most difficult areas of production.
Yeah, definitely. If you're new to the channel and are curious how we got to where we are now, we're working on a series on our YouTube channel called Building a Production Studio. And I think we have 4 episodes out right now, or maybe we're still working on the 4th one. But anyways, that kind of just goes step by step of how we got to our first production space as a company, and how we've moved on to our second. And I think through those videos, you kind of get a little bit more insight into how we work together, all the people involved, and kind of get just some examples of like how we've grown over the past few years. I feel like that if you're curious to learn how we built what we have today, I think that's a great way to get introduced, and you should check it out.
Yeah, I think that goes right in line with the reason why we're starting this podcast and the reason why we like to make YouTube videos in general. It's not like we love listening to ourselves talk, but maybe a little bit of that.
Not me.
Not me either. But I love how YouTube has promoted like transparency and like people really being able to get where they want to be and getting access to information that you otherwise probably would have to pay for. And everybody's path's different. So I think that's something we like to highlight is just, we did some things that were a little bit different and we had to learn a lot of lessons along the way. So being able to share that information is very valuable for us. And honestly, I think just talking about it for me helps my brain kind of reset and just think about, where I was maybe 3 years ago, and just understanding that like a lot can change in a short amount of time as long as you're willing to put the work in and kind of like have a vision, I guess.
Yeah, and for me personally, like I owe so much to YouTube. I've realized this over the past several years that like almost everything I know how to do is from YouTube. Like
Yeah.
even like we were talking about skateboarding is kind of what got us into filmmaking. I learned how to skateboard from YouTube
Yeah.
tutorials.
I was just watching a video on how to backside heel flip the other day.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
exactly. So
I was
like
doing something wrong.
yeah, so between like learning how to skateboard, tips on I used to be into like freestyle skiing, learned stuff from YouTube from that.
Right.
I'm learning how to build guitars right now. Anything with music, like you can learn so much from YouTube. And so I owe so much to people who have freely given out information or their perspective or insight. And it's very satisfying and like rewarding for me to kind of be a part of that full circle cycle of like I learned through YouTube and then I learned through experience enough to the point where I feel like I have valuable insight to give to other people. And like you're saying, I think that's a kind of another reason why we wanted to do this podcast is to just kind of be an open book for anyone who's interested and maybe wants to do something similar that we're doing.
Right.
To just give them any helpful tools that can benefit them along their journey.
Yeah, and we're well aware that some of the information might be useless to some people, but some of it might be very helpful. And I think that's like the glory of it is you could just cherry pick and take what you need from it and learn, and get inspired that way. Where it's not just like going to school. It's like very structured and you have to learn the specific set of things.
Right. And the way we do things is not the only way. Obviously, we've had our own unique experiences, and although a few of us had the same or similar education, I still feel like I've probably learned more just from the past like 2 years of working with all of you about like the practicality of production and like what that actually looks like than I did when I was in college. But anyways, yeah, like you're saying, like pick whatever you want from the stuff that we put out. We just hope to be some sort of a resource to anyone who could find it useful. So with this podcast series, we also want to include different perspectives from everybody here at the team. So not every episode is just going to be me and Adam. We're going to be rotating through all the team members to give their own perspectives, and certain topics might be better suited. For example, I don't have as much experience with drones, so if there's a episode where it's focused on drones, we'll probably have Adam and Rick handle that one. And so you'll see myself, Adam, Rick, Tatiana, and Brian on these podcast episodes moving forward.
Yeah, so I think that does it for our first little introduction episode. If you guys have any ideas on things you'd like to hear on that note, anything specific that you've seen on our channel, if you really want to learn how to fly drones and we haven't covered that enough, we'll be happy to make more drone content.
Yeah, we have a short list of some topics we're going to work on, but we would love to hear your feedback, and if someone has a like deep enough question they want to ask that might warrant an entire episode, we'd be happy to do that. We're trying to keep these relatively short and sweet and straightforward. So if there's a question that you have that we can answer over the course of an episode, we'd love to do that.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you in the next episode.